Viewer discretion is advised. The following discussion touches on heavy topics such as sexual abuse, abortion, and drug use. Please listen with an open mind as the conversation unfolds.
Whole identity as I was supposed to be this mother, this provider, this lover, this giver, so it's hard. That's why for me, people have to make choices for themselves, whether society wants to agree or not. Women have been having abortion since the beginning of time, whether it was some plant that helped them, because, and we will continue, whether it's legal or illegal, we will continue to have abortions.
Go from this. All right. Because I don't think it's going to be spotty when it's recorded. I think it's just spotty based on the connection. But if we have to do it again, we can always reschedule for another week and do another conversation. That's not the end of the world. Because two, it's just more of wanting to catch up with you. I haven't talked to you in how many years has it been? Like really have seen you.
It was like 2013, almost 10 years.
And I just disappeared.
Oh my God, almost 10 years. The last time I spoke to you, I think you were off this.
I was where?
Joining a circus?
Yes, probably.
Yeah. So how was that? Did that ever happen?
Yeah, I was gone for about 6 months. I started in where was it? What's that center in New York that they have all not Rockefeller Center, some center they were doing it in the circus. They were doing the circus there in New York. So I started there, ended up in Georgia, then Boston. We ended up back in Jersey, and our last spot was in Queens. And then from Queens, we went back to the headquarters, which was somewhere in upstate New York. And and then I didn't end up going back because I got my hand crushed on probably the last few days of getting back to the home base. So they didn't want me back because I guess I was a liability. But yeah.
So you were doing for the circus?
So when I started off, I was looking for jobs and I was on Craigslist of all places. And that's how I actually ended up getting the job when I was working with you, was through Craigslist. And
of course, it was a Craigslist ad.
So I saw an ad or a title that said, "Do you want to run away with the circus?" That was the actual title of the Craigslist ad. So I clicked it out of curiosity and I read about it. That Big Apple Circus was looking for people to hire. Come on this or send in your application. We'll give you a call. So they gave me a call. And when I had initially gotten the job, I was a greeter. So I would all like you and your family would come in. I'd be that dork that, "Hey, how you doing? Go this way."
Yeah.
So from there, with just learning from the door-to-door marketing and all of that, they made me a manager of the people that would help, the workers that would help find the seats. So I was the guy that was telling them you help them out and all that shit. So then I had moved into a bunker and was living with the electrician, the 24-hour electrician, but unfortunately at the time, and I hope he's gotten better since, he was addicted to heroin. So I was living with a heroin dealer or a heroin addict in my little bunker.
How was your sobriety during that?
Oh, it was bad. My drinking was getting worse. So it's an alcoholic and a heroin addict living together. And one day, it was actually happened in Jersey when we were in Jersey. He was walking out of the bunker and slipped and fell. And just so happened that the manager of the circus was walking by and saw it and told his workers, go and make sure he gets a drug test immediately. Because if you're getting hurt on the job, they want you to drug test immediately, just liability purposes. So he had refused. And because he refused to take a drug test, they automatically fired him because they're just like, all right, well, you don't want to take the drug test. We're telling you to take it. There's nothing we could do. You're out of here. So I ended up jumping on the job and became the 24-hour electrician, which didn't really help with the drinking at all and all the stress. But it was a good time. It was a lot of hard work. It really put me in a position that if I didn't shut up and actually put in the work, I have nowhere to go. So I was in a position where it's just like they really have you, and if you could choose to leave, but they basically just throw you at the bus station. You have to pay for your bus ticket and have to figure out how to get all your shit with you. So
damn. Is that how you ended up in Georgia?
No, so Georgia. So I ended up back in Jersey for a while. Ended up in recovery. Went to a rehab outpatient program. Got my job back at the airport. Was coasting it for a bit, and then I was in a. Oh, I have to talk about it because I have to be honest. I was in a relationship with somebody, and at the time, I kind of felt like I was settling. So I wasn't really. It was just the situation I was in. It was just for dire needs, and I had gone to a show and ran into a buddy of mine who I used to play music with, and he introduced me to his younger sister, who ended up becoming my fiance. And when we were together, I had felt guilty about cheating on my ex with the current ex-fiance. So that put me into a position where I ended up relapsing, and I ended up back into a rehab. And from there, while trying to maintain a relationship with somebody that was trying to finish college, and I give her a lot of credit for dealing with my bullshit, I came up with the idea of moving down here to Georgia for her to go to school, because there was a school here in Atlanta that she wanted to go to, which she ended up going. And I believe that she graduated. Hopefully, I think she only had to do 2 years, so I hope she graduated. And I was going to come here to just get my life started over. I had already had some recovery under my belt because I had a sponsor and I was going to meetings in New Brunswick. So I was like, all right, well, the change of scenery might help. I have family down here. So by the grace of God, luckily everything, I'm not engaged anymore and I'm single now, but I think everything happens for a reason. There's a lesson in every failure. I don't see it as failure. I see it as just Absolutely. So it's a failure if you keep doing the same shit over and over. But no, life's been interesting. I've been on this weird spiritual path lately.
Oh yeah? So what's that? What's that like?
I had an ego death, and
did it involve psychedelics or just
No, it's I started transcendental meditation.
Oh, TM.
So I was doing that, and exercising. I went on a 17-day fast, and I just restarted my whole brain and my gut. And then just recently I started talking to somebody, a woman, and just talking, just seeing where things were going to go. But then at the same time, I don't know, you've been in a relationship for a while. I've been single for 2 years. So then I start thinking about past relationships, and I start not getting anxiety, but wondering, for me, especially with my spiritual journey, I was wondering why is it I can't seem to hold a relationship down? What is it or what are the problems that arise? And from there, I was meditating on it, and I realized that, and I ended up breaking my own heart that night. I realized that in every past relationship that I was in, I wasn't in love. I had genuine love for the person, but I wasn't in love. I think it was a mixture of lust and not wanting to be alone. Because every past relationship that I had, it usually started with, we'd hang out, end up having sex, and then the relationship was just there because I saw it as, well, they tolerate me and they don't mind hanging out with me, so I guess I'll have them stick around. And so then, but at the same time, I wasn't working on myself. So when I realized that, I broke my own heart. But then the next day I meditated on it more, and I kept asking myself questions. I kept saying, well, I have all these external resources that I use. I like reading philosophy. I like YouTubing videos, listening to podcasts, having sort of mentors out there that write, I guess, self-help books or whatever. but what is it that I have all these resources? I know what needs to be done, but what's going on? And I realized I'm the problem. It's me internally. I'm not utilizing myself to help myself. So from there, the next day I woke up, I guess that's the ego death. I woke up feeling reborn and renewed. And ever since that, which happened maybe like a month ago or two, I've been on this weird, like spiritual journey of just trying to do something, anything that's going to connect with people, help people. I've realized like, I love saying inner peace is what creates outer peace. I love telling people that like to do something, you can't change the world. You can only change yourself and the community or the environment that you're in at the moment. So there's adaptability. You have to be adaptable to your situations, and that takes time to learn. But if you could find that inner peace and create that outer peace, it's like throwing a rock into water. It initially hits the water, but it ripples out. And that effect right there, that action, it hopes that it ripples out and it inspires people to want to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
So this is why the conversation, like maybe this is a start. Just talking to people.
Dude, this has always been you, you know, from what I remember. I think one of the first things I learned about you was that you had started the Occupy Newark, right?
Occupy New Jersey.
Or you were
Jersey City.
Occupy New Jersey.
So
Jersey City. And that was always in our conversations that we would have, right? It was always about, it was like mental health, about like being connected with people, you know, just like being connected with people through music. And so I've always saw you as a person that like I could talk to and feel like I could be myself around. And that's somebody that genuinely cares about other people. So, you know, regardless of the struggles and, you know, relationship problems, I think you have to give yourself more credit because, you know, you're strong and you've always persevered. And, you know, you got to just love yourself a little bit. Sometimes when we don't love ourselves, we can't fully give that love to anybody else. So maybe that was the issue, you know? It
is. There's a lot of personal trauma that I've worked on. And the thing is unfortunately, and a lot of people will look at me like, really? But I don't like going to therapists. I don't like going to psychologists because I've done that. I've been on medication, and I've always told myself medication can only do so much because in the long run, it's how you control how you react to things.
Right.
So I was put in a position where when I had moved down here, I only had about 3 months worth of medication, and I did not want to have to, because this is something I'm going to talk about in other episodes of how interesting the healthcare system is when it comes to mental health. Because long story short, before I had moved down here, I was going to doctors to try and get refills on medication.
What kind of medication? Like antidepressants or?
So at one point, the last thing that I was on they had me on lithium, and
okay, Nirvana.
Yeah, exactly. And I've done my research. You come to find out lithium is just a natural salt. So that's why they need to do blood tests every few months to check your salt levels if you're on lithium to make sure you don't have high sodium in your system. Yeah. So sometimes I'm thinking, what is this, a placebo effect? Like maybe it does do something, but at the same time, like you could tell somebody, like they do experiments where they give people water pills and they tell them it's like an antidepressant medication, and they do these like tests to see how they react to it. And some people in their mind thinking they're taking antidepressants and all of a sudden they're feeling better because they think in their mind that.
Dude, that's the power. Like we really don't understand how much power we have as humans, you know. And now that you're in this like spiritual journey and like with meditation, I just think there's so much we don't know, we don't understand about like what we can really do to transform our minds, our bodies, you know. So it's interesting. I had no idea that lithium was just a salt, but I mean, when you're dehydrated, right, you need those electrolytes. It's basically salt. Like the things that we need the most it's like super simple. We need salt, we need water, you know, a little bit of amino acids, and we're complete. So
see, that's the thing about
too complicated, man.
So I was saying though, with the doctors, this is what I want to talk about real quick, is like, so I was going to these therapists that were able to, or the psychologists that were able to prescribe medication. And I started cheating the system real quick, because I just wanted the medication. I wanted out. I didn't want to talk to them about anything.
Right.
So I would find these doctors, make appointments, see them for maybe a session or two, because I already had medication at home, but I was running out and I wanted to make sure I didn't skip, because I was fearful that I was going to end up in the hospital again. So fast forward, or what I'm trying to get to is, I would see them for 2 times. They would prescribe me the medication and wouldn't even call me for a checkup. And I would just get my medication, go on to the next one. So I could see how from an addict's perspective, that addicts are able to manipulate doctors and just tell them they're in pain and get their medication, get their drug, and then move on to the next one. And because some of these doctors really don't, they're just looking to get you in and out. There's no real concern. They hear these things all over every single day. So there's a lot of the healthcare system that needs to be revamped and needs to be talked about. And I think a lot of people who have maybe some mental health issues really don't talk about their experiences with these doctors and what it's like. Because I have a friend right here that she's being diagnosed with schizophrenia, and I keep in check with her. And she's telling me they're revamping up my medication. They're shooting it up more, then they're dropping it, then they're changing me on this, and they have me on that. And I'm just like, you're seeing these doctors. Why can't they just figure out what's going on? Why do you have to take all these cocktails? But at the same time, too, like I had mentioned earlier, medication can only do so much. We have a responsibility within ourselves to do something that's going to benefit us.
Absolutely.
So there's an unbalanced thing about the human experience these days that I don't think a lot of people look into or care about. They just want the easy way out, their convenience.
Yeah. And also, we do what we're told in terms of like medication. It's like, okay, you're schizophrenic. This is what you have to do so you don't have these hallucinations and blah, blah, blah. But if you look at like different cultures, like I know that there's some like indigenous cultures, somebody who has that kind of mental illness, it's not really seen as a mental illness, but as like a spiritual kind of effect. And they work with those people and they become like leaders, like spiritual leaders, because they have this like vision. So it's like, I don't really understand a lot of mental illnesses. I don't know. How do you feel now? I feel like everybody is being put into a box, right? They come with kind of like worry, struggles. They want to talk it out. They find themselves in a system where it's like, okay, this is what you are. Here's the medication you can take. Okay, bada bing, bada boom. Like there's no kind of relationship in this kind of conversations, right? Around what it is.
So there's a place here called Macon Recovers, and they're basically, if you're an addict or you have mental health problems or you just need help, you could go there when they're open, and they have computers there to work on your resume. There's a pool table there. They have meetings, AA meetings, NA meetings. They'll help you find counselors and whatnot. They'll do check-ins. But the thing is when it comes to addiction and mental health, especially today, there's so much going on, and there's a lot of people out there suffering. And from what I've gathered or from my own experience, people really have to want to get the help. Some people just coast it. Some people just do it to give it a try. Some people really need it. Some people just don't give a shit, and they like to feel the attention that you get from having a mental illness. I know there were times where like I would use my depression and whatnot to sort of manipulate people and get my way, because I just didn't feel like dealing with life and
excuse yourself from certain behaviors because
exactly.
And a lot of people now, like everybody has some sort of like anxiety or some, like it's always, I don't know, do we like the labels? Because it does excuse us, because there are people who are suffering, as you said. And
so
what do those people need?
We're inherently lost as a person or as a human being. We one of my favorite books that I just recently read is called The PMA Effect, from this guy, John Joseph. He was a singer of a hardcore band in the 80s. And backstory with him, he was a ex-drug addict, would rob you, stab you, lived on the streets of New York during the late 70s into the 80s when hardcore and punk music was at its prime. Really tough guy, had all about survival, meets one of my favorite bands in the world, all of a sudden becomes all plant-based diet, having an all plant-based diet, becoming a Hare Krishna at one point. And what he's come to realize through his experience is that we're born with all these labels, and we try to identify and cling on to things, material things in this world, that when we die, it stays here. It doesn't go with us. So it's essentially, it's just like that's why, like, for me, when I did the 17-day fast, that was like a restart, not just for my body, but like for
was it,
mind.
a water fast?
I did a 17-day water fast, no food, water.
Woo,
I was taking supplements. But what it did, it made me realize that the mind and especially the gut are connected so well, and what we eat and what we do put into our body essentially will affect how we feel, because these foods break down and they, like chemicals, and it does shit. So like processed sugar, all that shit that we eat, all that junk is the main
we're
reason.
Addicted to. It's another addiction.
It is. Food is an addiction.
Another cycle of.
And I plan on doing an episode about this, like, because I have my own, I guess, eating disorder sort of thing. I used food as a comfort thing. That's why, like, when we would do the door-to-door marketing and we would go out to lunch, it'd be like 3 fucking beef, cheese empanadas, a slice of pizza, or we'd go to some Spanish restaurant with the group and just gorge out, because that was like comfort.
Can we talk about the food for a second? Like, we would go to the Spanish restaurant, pay $6 and have a huge, like, half a chicken, hella rice, bean. All
right. So okay, first and foremost, let's really get into this. I want to know, because we've known each other for a while, but I really don't know who Anna is, and I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. Who is Anna?
That's a loaded question. Dude, I'm still trying to figure out who is Anna, but I think, I don't know, man. I'm just like a fun, creative, loving person. I just like to experience people. That job was one of my first jobs. I think I was 19. And I loved it. How many different people we met, how many stories we heard. Like, I think at the core of Anna is somebody who loves people and loves to connect, and I need it. Like, some people get energized by like being alone, and sometimes I need that. I need to like distance myself from literally everyone. But for the most part, I feel energy by just being around different people and communicating. So
if I remember correctly, your cultural background is Brazilian, correct?
Brasileira. Yeah, baby.
And I have my good friend John, who was my first interview. His family's from Brazil, and I've always noticed the people who I've met from Brazil have that sort of spark and energy where it's just everybody's just, hey, let's all hang out, let's just have a good time, let's just talk. Because he when I went to Jersey last year, he had his buddy come over who's from Brazil as well. And he's straight from the boat. Like, I've been here for about a year, and you could he still has that energy and that spark. And the guy actually came through the fire escape. He climbed up through the fire escape because he didn't know how to enter. But
wait, what?
He was just so weird and wacky, and it was just like, let's just hang out, let's just have fun, let's just talk, let's just communicate.
Those are the kind of people that I'm into, man. Like, that's how I connected with you. You were different. You had your own kind of music that you were into. You were kind, funny. Like, I like people.
So what got you into that job? How did you find that job?
Craigslist. I don't know how I found it. I don't remember. It just seemed fun. It was like a sales job. I had worked at like a salon before, but I was undocumented for, most of my life here in the United States. And when I finally got like a work permit, that's when I was able to work at that job. So
what was the job, real quick? Describe to the people what job we had.
So it was door-to-door sales. It was like a third party so we were doing closing people on Verizon. Like, hey, what kind of services do you have? Because I got something better for you. And it was just a bunch of young kids, right? Like most of us were knuckleheads, if you think about The Office, if you remember. And at first it wasn't like that. Like everybody's dressed professional and you have those morning meetings and they were exciting and like fun, the training of it all. But we met some characters in The Office. And I think what really turned me off though was, I don't know if you remember, I don't even want to say his name, but the one individual who he was definitely struggling with addiction, and he would come to the office and he was driving us around and he was always messed up. He was so funny, so cool, but you know, the fact that like he needed help. And
I remember this individual. I talk about him every now and then to people.
Me too. I think about him every now and then.
Well, he was slick with his sales, because I remember. Hold on, I'm just gonna move here real quick. How is it? Is this still spotty?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, so this is very professional for my fourth episode. we want to keep it. We want to keep it real and uncut.
Authentic, man. Roughly.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I remember there was one time that he would tell people. So basically, yeah, we had to sell Verizon, and we were a third-party company. So what he found a way to sort of hack the apartment buildings was going to each apartment building and telling the residents that the landlord recently signed a contract with Verizon, and in order for them to not lose their cable, you have to sign up now or just miss out. So people want their TV, and they thought that was the truth.
He I don't think he was making any money, because he was basically soft closing everybody. It was just like, just sign this and here's the documents, and kind of like manipulating people. And
it was a numbers game for him. It was more like throwing shit at the wall, hoping. But yeah, it was hoping that you're throwing shit at the wall, hoping that some of them would stick. Like I've had a job with ADT in Florida. I was doing sort of the same thing, trying to close people and get them to sign up for ADT. And it was more of a numbers game. You'd have to try and sign up so many people that you hope that majority, a small percentage of them would
law of averages.
Yeah, exactly. And their credit would go through, because we had to run credit checks, you know? Right. So that's what he was basically doing. So he was probably making money, but it wasn't a lot. It was more of like, you know, maybe hopefully one of them will go through, because we were going in some pretty interesting areas in Jersey.
Yeah, tell me about it. I think I had one of my scariest experiences out there. Because I was working hard. Like I would not stop. I'd knock and talk to literally as many people as I possibly could. And the money was good, you know, for a 19-year-old kid making like $600 to $1,000 a week. Like it was amazing. We would go out every single night. Like it was, but it could be very scary. There were situations also that I saw that you really see poverty, you know, they said we couldn't go in people's homes, but you knew when you were inside somebody's house, like it was a done deal. And there were some situations that were really sad, you know? And those were the people that had like the highest level. They would pay the most for the cable. I remember there's this one guy I'll never forget. It was a building in Jersey City. Oh my God, it still breaks my heart. But I knocked on his door. He opened the door. It was an old man. I could see that he had like blurry vision, and cockroaches just were crawling all over the door, all over his shirt. Like I could see it on the floor. And I just felt so like afraid, and oh my God, like, where am I? Like, what is this? I was just like, okay, thank you. You know, just like walked away. But I still think about him, and I'm like, yo, that's somebody's father. That's somebody's grandfather, you know, and he's just living in this shithole.
And the best part about it is they made us we had to be business casual. We had to dress like, you know, we were dressed for success, walking.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, so I remember when we would hit Irvington, and that was my hometown, so I was at home having to wear dress pants and loafers and shit like that, and just walking into these neighborhoods that I already know are run down, and half these people really don't give a shit about, you know, what you're offering, but at the same time, that little bit of entertainment, that TV time that they could get from getting away from the world, they felt was necessary. So that we sort of had that advantage of just like, we're offering this to you.
Yeah.
But
and a lot of times we did save them money, you know, like.
But I always felt like that office, like all these little offices, these little satellite offices that they would open up always felt like a con to me in some sense. Like I understand the team building shit that we would do in the beginning, and that small little cramped up up on the second floor of what street it was in Hoboken. Yeah. But it always felt like
sketchy.
Yeah, like the IRS is going to come in and arrest the French dude. I forgot who the French guy's name. Adrian.
I thought it was sketchy from the beginning, and I was like, you know what? This is what they said, that it takes like 3 weeks to like get your first paycheck or whatever. I was like, all right, I'm gonna give this a chance because I like the environment and the people. I was like, I'm gonna give it 4 weeks and see how it goes. I think my first paycheck was like $600, and I was like, okay, let's do it. And after really seeing the environment and like that one individual, how, like, I don't know how he was even able to work there. Like, we needed to help this guy, and he was driving people around in an unsafe environment. I was just completely turned off. The whole idea of like team building for me, I was like, fuck that. I want to get my shmoney, and I'm out in Hoboken. I'm gonna party every night, whatever, So it was just like a fun experience. I only had 6 months of it, but I do think that it just didn't work for everybody. There was a potentiality for it to succeed and be like a legitimate business. Like Brandon did it for years, and sometimes it was really successful. And it's my husband, like somebody I love and trust, and I know that he wouldn't be putting people in those situations. But it's like anything in life, things can be distorted, and you take advantage if you're getting like money from something. But even the people who have their own offices, you're completely reliant on individuals to produce, right, and to sell, to do the right things for your office to succeed. And everything was just up in the air. But some people, it worked for them. It just, I don't know.
It's sales and marketing is such an interesting field of work to get into, because there is uncertainty of when's the next paycheck going to come, because you want to get that sale. But then when you do,
fully commission.
Yeah, but when you do, and it builds the ego up so well, when you're able to close that sale and make that number at the end of the week or whatever it was, oh, I could do this. This is easy. All I got to do is talk to people. But then you talk to people, and you could either pick two sides of the spectrum in the sales world. You could become the guy that essentially bullies people into getting the sale and not giving a fuck what kind of consequence you're potentially getting them into. Or you could be the one that is just like myself. Everyone always told me I had the ability to do marketing and sales, but I like you had mentioned the story before of the gentleman with the cockroaches on the door. I don't have the heart to go to a person's house and hear, they're telling me. Some people are just lonely, and they'll invite you in, and they just want to talk and have someone to talk to. And there's plenty of times where I've had people like not up there in the head too clearly, and they want to react with you. So
multiple times on the field, there was this one woman I met, and she was in New York City when the towers fell, and I think she had like a corporate job, and her mind was all over the place. I knew that she needed help too, and I sat there with her for maybe 2.5 hours. I had already closed a couple of people, and I was just there as just a human, I could tell she just wanted somebody to talk to. she was really kind. She had all these different supplements that she was telling me about, and she was just so sad. And everything that she talked about, it went back to like 9/11, and I could see that she had like PTSD, and it was just this trauma that this woman could not let go of. And it's like, how do you live your life, you know? And sometimes it just takes a conversation with somebody else, you know. It just takes like that moment of empathy and humanity. And so I don't necessarily agree with, it's either you're the salesperson who doesn't make any money, or you're the shitty salesperson that takes advantage of people. Because if I have something to offer you and I can offer it, then I'm going to do my best to offer it to you, right? And if it doesn't work out, all right, goodbye, I'm on to the next. But it also took a lot of like resilience, because you get so many no's, and some days you don't close anybody at all. Some days people are yelling at you. There was one time oh my God, I thought I was going to die. There was this guy, he was outside the house, you know, when they already had Verizon, so we knew we could give them like a really good deal. And he was like, oh, I don't live here, this is my parents' house. And I was like, don't worry, like, just sign this for them. It's going to, you know, if they want to close the deal, they can, but this is going to save you guys like $200. And it was true. And when it came time for him to sign the paper, which was basically just, here, you have an appointment, the man, and I went into, he was in his car parked in front of it. And so I went in because I'm like, I got this. I left the door open. I've never had a man scream at me the way that he did. He was like, yo, what the fuck? I was like, I'm getting killed. This was like in the middle of Patterson. I was like, oh, you know what? Forget it. I ripped up the paper, walked out. I was like crying. The next person I knocked on their door, they yelled at me, I told you, get out of here. I was just like, oh my God. And, you know, you have to step back and say, this doesn't reflect anything on me. I just need to take a break and breathe. And sometimes you can't, you know, if you need that money. I was a 19-year-old kid. I wasn't paying my own bills. When you have all these stresses, it can, you know, I don't know how a lot of people were working. A lot of people weren't making any money.
I was one of them. I was mostly the driver. I remember because I had a car. Everybody popped into my car. I had that little shitty, I don't even know what it was.
I don't remember what it was either.
And I was so broke and just trying to coast it and just trying to make ends meet. But at the same time, I was just like, well, this is an opportunity. I could probably get something out of this and learn some skill. But one thing about that office too is they had encouraged you to stay after work and go out to the bars and network with your
but that's how they got us. That's how they got us. It's the relationships that keep us there. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, this is...
And Hoboken at night, especially on a weeknight.
It was everything.
I remember that one bar we would go to that they would sell 40s in a plastic, and they would give you a brown paper bag. You could drink a 40 in a fucking bar. And I didn't have any money, and I was able to drink because they would just get lucky. Oh, I'll buy you a drink. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll buy you a drink. You want a beer? And then, you know, you're supposed to team build when everybody is, you know, liquid courage.
I would smoke in people's houses. I would drink and be like, it can be, I could see somebody with like mental illness and issues, like it could be detrimental. Like that situation was not fertile grounds for like positivity and growth, because there was an aspect of like, what I also didn't like was it was false, you know, like, why are you not making any money, but you're pretending that you are, or that, you know, people like, no, there were so many people, they were so broke, but they wouldn't leave. And I'm like, you know, when this doesn't work for you, who gives a fuck about the people in this office? You gotta go.
It's a psychological thing. It's a facade to be seen, like, because again, and I can see, because they do say dress for success. That's why they wanted us to dress business casual, to look like we're successful business people. And then you're selling Verizon and you're talking sales and you're making money. So there you come up with this sort of false reality of just like, oh, you know, the Snapchat. Oh, I'm making money. I'm grinding. What are you doing? You know, you got an office in Hoboken. Everything about it was sugar coated. You know,
exactly. It was the whole facade. It was the whole facade.
So, like, as a guy, from a guy's perspective, you know, we're at a bar, with the team and I go off and try and you know, find a single woman, I could tell them, yeah, you know, I work in Hoboken doing sales. You know, I sell Verizon. You know, I'm making good money. I'm dressed up. You know, after work, I'm still in my business casual. There's my team over there. We're talking business. You know, so there was that sort of ego boost. But then if you're not making money at the end of the day, you know, you're going home feeling drained and
people
wondering.
Were stressed. People were really stressed.
And I don't remember why I left. Something happened where. Oh, you know how I had to. You know how we had to drug test for that?
Yeah, I had. That was just. It wasn't all the time. It was just to get the job.
Yeah,
because I remember drinking that weird drink so that like THC wouldn't show up on my test.
I MacGyvered it, so I borrowed my.
You brought your own pee, shoved up your ass.
No, so what I came up with this contraption basically where I took a little shampoo bottle and I had the urine in there, and then I had hand warmers. You have to use hand warmers specifically because they didn't get as hot as the foot warmers. So then I had to basically staple it to my underwear and walk in to the place. But the place that they sent us to, the lady actually was supposed to stay in the bathroom and watch you do it. I got lucky that someone rang the doorbell, so she had to go in the front and buzz them in. And at that opportunity, I was able to switch over to the little drug cup, and I was lucky enough to get that job. And I don't even know why we had to get drug tested for it because it was.
Yeah. I mean, if that one person was there, like that the drug test was a facade.
What happened to Anna after that job? Because we went our separate ways. I ran away and.
What happened to Anna? I think it got really cold and I left. But actually, I was still living with my parents. Towards the end of that job, I started dating Brandon. And then I moved to Sayreville. So I moved on to Sayreville and left. I was working at a wholesale apparel company. I was like doing admin work for them, bartending on the weekends, just like making money. And I don't know, like living it was still the same. I was just like a young kid, you know, trying to figure it out. And then it wasn't until I got pregnant with my son that I was like, okay, what am I doing here? Like, what's happening? So that changed a lot and put a lot to perspective. I just started being more like organized and focused and like more driven. I went back to school. So now I'm in school. I'm in my last semester. So yeah, I'm just excited, you know, to start working full time again, learning more, gaining more life experience, and, you know, building a future for my son. But, you know, I'm still that girl too, that 19-year-old, you know, full of shenanigans. But now I'm balanced. I have more balance in my life.
So what are you going to school for?
Public relations.
So what do you want to do once you get out? Any ideas?
I'm not sure. I am interested in a bunch of different things, you know, but I want to do something creative. I already have a job lined up after, you know, I graduate. It's not necessarily what I want to do, but I'm obsessed with the company. I love the people that I met. There's so much opportunity and growth for me to explore all the different things that I am into. So yeah, I'm excited to start there. It's like a customer support for Bloomberg, which is a fintech company and this big media company. And so there's so much that I could do, you know, if I just become a perpetual student and just learn a bunch of different things. So
we're always constantly learning. We're always students in this world. Never stop learning is what I've come to realize.
Yeah. I think for like the majority of my life, I've just been like the minimal effort that I can put into something is what I want to do. And now I'm more of the mindset of like, yo, if you're not struggling, if you're not like frustrated, if you're not challenging yourself, you're not growing. So what the fuck are you doing? You know, like push to do the hard things. And that's helped me a lot to like feel proud of myself, because it's hard, but once you do the hard thing, you gain more confidence in yourself. So, you know, that helps me, even though I don't really know what I want to do.
It's interesting you brought that up, because I just started listening to this guy, Lex Friedman. I just found this guy out.
I love Lex.
And he had this anarchist, Mike Malice. And I'm on the fence about Michael Malice, because anarchy in the way that he looks at it is, it's like one of those things when it comes to like, for me, when it comes to like socialism, it's great on paper, but in like great execution, in theory, who knows, you know, but you gotta, there has to be some test to it. You have to allow it to exist in some way. But anyways, but they were talking about suffering, and Lex believes what you believe. You have to suffer in order to get through life and find happiness. And he likes being cynical to a certain extent. He believes being cynical is a good thing, because you deep down, if you look past the cynicism, you could find the beauty within. Like because he's Russian, and a lot of Russians do get that reputation of being very cold, but at the same time, they're very traditional, I would assume, very, you know, get past it, get through life, stick together, especially in terms of family. And Mike Malice is like, no, I don't think being cynical is a good thing for the world. I think it's actually bad for people. And I'm kind of like you. I think for me, being cynical is a good thing, because I grew up on comedy, but having to suffer in some form, and we all suffer in some form, we need to accept the suffering and realize that it does bring growth in some way. From my own experience, especially, I was last year when I turned 34, my mom and I actually sat and laughed at the fact that I made it to 34. We didn't think I would make it this long. It's so, but yeah, you know, tough skin. I got tough skin out of everything that's happened in my past. And but the thing is too, I guess from being open-minded or becoming more open-minded and talking to people down here in Georgia, especially people my age, I've learned to be a little bit soft now and be a little bit more gentle when approaching people, and not being the type of person of like, hey,
hi,
hello guy, look at that hair.
He can't hear you, but
when are you gonna let it grow out? When are you gonna let his hair grow out? I want to see long hair on him.
Can I thank you?
He wants to. He's asking if you want to let your hair grow out.
Hey, you gonna grow out your hair?
Yes.
Yes. How old are you?
4.
4? Wow, you're big. My goodness. You got a job yet? You're paying bills?
Am I not? No.
You got a job to clean your room. That's it.
You're so handsome.
He is.
That was in your stomach for 9 months. That's so weird.
Dude, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Sometimes I'm still like, I can't believe it. It's like, this is my child.
Mommy.
So what was it like? What was
Hold
it
on,
like?
buddy. I'll be right with you, okay?
So this is why I wanted to have you on too as a mom. I think a lot of moms don't really get to really talk about what it's like being a mom. Like, you got TikToks of stay-at-home moms and whatnot, which they use comedy as a way to get moms to connect with each other. But like, especially being a young mom when you did become a mom, what was it like, especially in New Jersey at the time?
Yeah. It was kind of hard in the beginning for me, just because I was living far away from my family. So I was like an hour and a half from everybody. Brandon was working a lot. So it was hard, you know, you're like a new mom, you want to be around everybody, and it's like, that's all you're doing, and you're young, and you're like, oh my God, like, is my whole life going to change? You're not sure of yourself and how much you can give to this child. But I worked through that, because man, luckily I didn't have like postpartum depression or anything like that.
That's good.
So it was just this, he was like a light in my life, right? That I was just like, oh, bathing, basking. But, and then after like the 9 months, I moved closer and I started school. And I felt like, okay, I'm really getting a hang of this thing. And you build like relationships that support you. I was closer to my family. But, you know, even now it's like, you don't know everything, right? It's like the first time, no matter how many children you have, it's the first experience, you know, mothering that child and then being your child, you know, so they don't know how to act like a child. You don't know how to act like a parent. And it's just give and take. You just have to give as much love as you can. But so it's going good. It's going well. Luckily, I have support.
I think it's obvious that I have a affinity for kids. I love kids. I think kids in this world is, if we took more effort into just looking and being open-minded about what it's like being a kid, in a sense, I think we could learn a lot from them, because they see the world in such a way where they don't understand it, but they just, you know, want to take it in. But like, I don't think we tell a lot of young women, especially ones expecting or finding out that they're pregnant, that there's something courageous about a woman, especially a young woman, who finds out that maybe, you know, they're expecting, that I think it's a courageous thing when you bring a child into the world, knowing that the world is such a dark place, but you're going to do everything in your power to not allow that child to experience maybe what you've experienced, or what you've been through. I think that's the struggle right there, and that's the strength that's gained there. And I don't know, I think there needs to be more encouragement, because I had a conversation with somebody that I have my own views when it comes to pro-choice and pro-life, but I don't know.
So what's your view?
I'm very pro-life. I'm very very, because I have my convictions. And it took me a lot, so my ex-fiance, we used to get into a lot of debates, not a lot, because we had one big explosive one about it. She's pro-choice. That's fine. That's her decision. I'm pro-life, but she's also against the death penalty, and I was for the death penalty. And it took me time to sit down and really reflect on how can I be pro-death penalty, but at the same time pro-life. And then it had to really put me in a position to like, well, which one outweighs the other? And I had to drop my views on the death penalty, because after hearing and looking at and doing my own research, it put me in a perspective, just like I can't be the one to control someone's life in the aspect of death, because that's in my higher power's hand. Exactly. I'm not God, right. So that's in God's hand. So they have to meet their maker at the end of the day. But no, I don't think we encourage a lot of single moms or moms to be, that there is a chance to prevail through the tough times.
I mean, I think for women, you know, you're born a woman, you're born with all these expectations of you, and it limits you, right? Yeah. So I think, you know, a lot of us do say like, oh, I can't wait to be a mother. And it's like, we make our whole life around like, and that's great. If you're the type of like woman who that's like what brings you happiness, and you're raising like 100 kids, but it's not the case for all women. And, you know, you can say, oh, well, you just have to be responsible, you know, get on birth control and all this stuff. But even birth control, it has all these effects on a woman's body, you know, and sometimes you know that you don't want to, you know, raise a life. You just don't have the energy. You don't have like the wherewithal. You're just like, dude, it's not for me. And I think women need to make those choices for themselves, because what's the point of bringing a life here that you grow to resent? because children, to me, like as soon as I realized I was pregnant and decided like, okay, I'm going to go through with this, like I'm ready, I prepared, I felt like even when he was still in my stomach and I wasn't even showing that, like he was absorbing my energy, and I had to be like, this is a decision I made. I have to understand the consequences. Like maybe I'm going to hate my body after these months and like go crazy. Who knows what'll happen, but I choose to love this child, right? So women need to have that choice to make for themselves, because you're going to bring a kid that you resent, that maybe you can't provide, you know, everything for. And a lot of people are born into that kind of circumstance and they grow out of it, right? Like the rose in the concrete. And a lot of people don't. The majority of the people don't. And they are put in a system of, you know, a horrible system. So
the reason why the reason why I'm bringing this up, I think this is great, especially talking to you and how I'm able to talk to you about it, because I had a conversation with somebody recently and it just ended up being an explosive, like back and forth, to the point where I'm just like, I had told them I picked my battles, and this is something I really didn't want to get into, but they were just like, no, you have to tell me, I need to know. So I'm just like, all right, fine. But I think this opportunity to speak to you gives me a better insight, because you are a mom and you know what it's like and you've experienced it. And I'm not downgrading any woman out there that's been through what they've been through, because every experience is different. Everyone goes through something different, but everybody suffers in some form. Everybody goes through stress in some form. But what was the point I was trying to get to? I think, yes, there is personal responsibility, but I also, from doing my research and talking to people, I think too, in a society, I think the society, or we as a society, or whatever you want to call it, as cliche as it sounds as I say it right now, I think we have a social responsibility too, to do better in order to educate and do more to encourage and not leave someone feeling hopeless. I think that's our personal responsibility as individuals. We need to encourage that. So like, I think there is more that needs to be done, whether it be better sex education, better resources, better mental health resources. Because I know,
absolutely,
I've read the stories and I've heard stories about moms before and after, whether it be before and after abortion, for example, or before and after having a child. And you were very blessed to not have to go through that postpartum depression, because I've read about it. And you hear these stories all the time of moms that unfortunately take it to another level, where their only way out is to end life. And
theirs or the child. Like, it's serious, you know? And it's something, it's like, if I've never experienced it, so like I can't really fathom it, but I can only imagine, like, how guilty the mother would feel, because I'm supposed to love this child. I'm supposed to be feeling, you know, joy and happiness, and then you don't. So it's like, who am I? My whole identity as I was supposed to be this mother, this provider, this lover, this giver, you know? So it's hard. That's why, for me, people have to make choices for themselves, whether society wants to agree or not. Women have been having abortions since the beginning of time, whether it was some plant that helped them, you know, because, and we will continue, whether it's legal or illegal, we will continue to have abortions. So to me, I would rather have.
That's the thing too, is like, that's why I had to pick my battles. I've come to the conclusion you can't change the world as a whole. You can only change yourself and your environment or your community. And that's why, like, it's never going to go away. I know that it's never something we could fully stop. If that was my decision, I'd be like, fucking stop it altogether, stop funding it. But it's not the case. So it's like, well, then what can be done? Well, then other efforts could be made to encourage or at least help out in some capacity. Because especially in the mental health aspect, just anyone in general suffering mentally, I empathize wholeheartedly because I know what it's like, and I know what it's like being in those four walls where you're in lockdown and you have doctors wondering if they're going to keep you in the hospital longer because they don't know what to do with you. And I just, it breaks my heart just knowing that there's a potential single mom out there that is alone with a child inside of her. And it's just like, she's lost and doesn't know where to go. You know, it's scary, man. I wouldn't, because then I start thinking about my past and what my mom went through, you know, and then as you get older, I guess, and as you work on yourself, especially as a man, if you're not empathizing or if you're not finding some sort of empathy towards a woman and you just see all women as the same, it's just like, then are you any better than them? Like, or who are you to judge? Who are you to say anything?
Absolutely. And it's, you know, I don't know. It's life, right? And to me, like you said, you know, women should be brave, and you know, it's like an act of courage to have a child in this like dark world. But I never saw it like that. You know, I think a lot of our existence it's based on the way that we frame things, the way that we see life. Like for me, I was excited to bring him into this world. You know, I was like, who is this person going to be? Who is this little seed going to grow into? You know, I wanted to be a part of that. And I didn't feel really scared. Like I felt like excited for like the surprise that it was. At first I was like, oh my God, like I can't do this. And definitely thought about getting an abortion. But then for me, I said, I think I will regret more this feeling of like the possibility of what it was than after the fact, you know, having to kind of change my life a little bit and be a little more, you know, grounded. So to me, it was a decision that I made. But yeah, I never saw it as like, oh, I'm taking this courageous step, you know. It was just life happens and you have to act, you know, according to how you feel about it.
It's such an science and biology. I like studying biology on my free time. And obviously when I was in my debating mode a couple of years back, I had to do my research in order to make sure that what I'm stating obviously is factual and I'm not just talking out of my arse. So I had to do a lot of research on pregnancy, and you learn all these different things about the child and the mother and the baby inside the womb, and stuff like you find out that stem cells from the baby stays within the mother and actually heals any broken organs or parts of the body that were stressed out during the pregnancy. You find out that like some moms end up, after having the baby, they still feel like the baby's inside of their womb. There's this weird connection between the mother and the child in the long run. You know, you learn all these different things of how the body develops. It's
I mean, we literally grow an organ and hold a human life. Like women are fucking badass.
They are. And if you look at history, you look at the hunter-gatherers, even when back in even Brazil, for example, where you're from, imagine what women went through in times when technology didn't even really exist or didn't even exist at all. No real practical medicine practices, no nothing.
Those epidurals, okay, plural here, helped me. I couldn't even imagine, like, how the hell is some bitch doing this in a river, cold as hell, you know, like, and that's how we're all here. That's how we all got here, you know?
So spiritually, how did you feel once Apollo came into this world? How did you feel once finally he's out?
Whole. I was like, the pregnancy And then like after birth, you're in this kind of like weird trance. It's almost like a psychedelic experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you're so connected, and like you would like your body, like breastfeeding, right? I breastfed for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
Before he would even cry, my breast would get tender, and I was like, okay, he's gonna be hungry. Like it's just
Wow.
this
See, that's the
weird,
connection that I was talking about.
yeah. And I've always, I grew up in a very kind of religious home. My mom's Christian, but I've had like these experiences with like prayer. So nobody can tell me like God isn't real. And so I've always had this kind of like meta, you know, kind of lens that I view the world through. And after becoming a mother and really experiencing this like mom-child connection, like even now, sometimes I'll be thinking about somebody and Apollo will bring them up randomly, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, what is this? So yeah, it's still that for me sometimes. You know, when I really stop to smell the flowers, I still feel that. But I'm learning more from him than I'll ever be able to teach him.
Yeah. So what have you learned since being a mom and looking at Apollo on those days where you feel uncertain? Like what?
Just like patience and, you know, expectations. Like he lives today, you know, like we can have a little argument, he'll be mad, and then he'll forget it, you know? And I think that as adults, we're always, first of all, stuck on this idea of who we are and, you know, what other people see us as and what life expects from us. And then we expect the same things because, you know, that's just whatever. We get stuck in these like weird modes of thinking. And children, they're so present, you know, they're so present in what they're doing now and how they're feeling. And even sometimes, like, I'm kind of strict. So I'm like, no nonsense. Like, I told you to pick that up, pick it up, you know? And sometimes I expect from him not to be cranky, not to be, you know, have a bad day, when we all go through that, you know? We literally all go through that, and nobody's kind of telling us not to do it. So I'm just so I'm patient when I can be. Sometimes, you know, I am Latina, so obviously, but just patience and kindness. That's it, man. That's like the biggest lesson that we can be, because it's hard. Like, we can give so much. Like, I know that I give that to other people, but sometimes to myself, like, I'm mean, you know? And so, and very impatient. But everything is like gradual and takes time. So that has helped me, you know, just be kinder to myself and, you know, a little more present.
Try to be that's what the meditation has done for me, is the present, being more present in the moment. And it's hard, especially as you become an adult, all these responsibilities, all these stresses, bills, whatnot, have you really take part of your life, and being present is hard nowadays. And I can see why a lot of people end up becoming depressed, because they don't take the time out to just reflect, I guess, gratitude. Not saying that people aren't thankful, but I think we seem to forget, because of life being so busy, we tend to forget the simple things that we have in life that we're, you know, some people unfortunately don't have, or maybe don't want. I've really changed my views too on homelessness. You know, some people just don't want that responsibility and want to live on the streets, which is fine, you know. And I don't know, it's hard to find a solution for so many problems in the world, because everybody wants a universal nowadays. Everything has to be universal.
There will never be a magic like alakazam and the world is 100%, you know, like you said, everybody needs to be working on themselves. But it's hard because it was, you know, back then all we had to do was survive. We didn't have to think about like these social spheres, these like, you know, how I'm, you know, what do I look like? What do I, who are my friends? What's my occupation? What's this? Like we've been programmed to live somebody else's life. Like our days are already set. Like you wake up, get ready, go to work, come back. Like we are not making time for ourselves. And I think that's where a lot of issues are arising, because people are finding themselves lost. Like this spiritual connection, a lot of people, they don't have, because it's not really cool to like be illogical, right? There's certain things we can't prove, and those are the things nobody wants to talk about. But to me, like that's what grounds me, you know, when I have those times to like you said, gratitude. When I meditate on gratitude, I realize how ungrateful I've been for like everything that I have in my life. Because we complain. That's what it is. Society, we're a bunch of fucking complainers. But like the little things, we don't even realize how much we have. Even people who have so little, like you still have something to be grateful for.
It's like a never-ending episode of Seinfeld. Just complain about just the small problems in life. And but so what I wanted to ask you too is, being from Brazil, how, and having a son here in America, because for me, my parents are from Belize, and I was born here in Newark, New Jersey, raised in New Jersey basically all my life, and having to be in a house where the culture was so different from outside my house. So everything was Belizean, you know, Caribbean way of life, way of being raised, compared to going out and seeing how my American friends were being raised, and feeling it like I was in a void, because I just never felt like I fit in, you know, because I've had so many different I felt like my life inside my house was different from outside my house. I never felt like it was one. For you, especially now, and having a kid in today's, you know, modern society, or whatever is considered normal, how do you go about it when it comes to, I guess, discipline, or just even raising Apollo in a world where everything just seems to be changing? I don't know, for the better or for the worse, but just changing so quickly.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, growing up, I was Brazilian. Like I didn't have American friends. All my friends were either Brazilian, Portuguese, Spanish, you know, we were all immigrants. So I didn't have that disconnect until later, because, you know, immigrants struggle. And when I was in high school, I couldn't get financial aid. I couldn't get any scholarships. I was just like, forget it, you know, forget school. I'm not trying to do I just want to like live my life. So I was kind of discouraged. But I was really just making excuses. And now I'm still around the same town. So Apollo is getting some of like the cultural experiences, but I already come with a lot more knowledge and kind of foundation for him to succeed in this American world, you know, this American society. So like you said, again, I don't like to look at things in already like a negative mindset, like this evolving, changing world. Like I don't feel like that. I'm like, we are becoming more like techie, digital, globalized. The world is changing really fast, but I'm like, he's in the middle of it. He's going to learn. Just like there's never a perfect moment, you know. I'm sure even thousands of years ago, people were thinking the same thing. Like, how can I raise a child? How can I, you know, if I can't think of it like that, or else it's gonna discourage me. It's gonna make me question. Like, if it's out of my control, I'm not focused on it. All I can focus on is what I can do. And, you know, I just want to instill in him confidence. Like I'm already teaching him ways to kind of control his emotions, not to suppress his emotions, but look, sometimes we feel a certain way and those feelings can't be trusted. You know, when you wake up from a nap, you're a different Apollo than the Apollo who's, you know, wakes up happy in the morning. And you can't trust the feelings. So you have to breathe. You have to, like, I want him to get to know his body, his feelings, his emotions. I want him to learn how to communicate, and teaching him those little things that he can do. And then, of course, as he gets older, you know, society as a whole and how to, you know, manage things. Like, I just want him to be able to stand up for himself, to have a point of view, to, you know, question and be curious, and to understand that, like, I'm not perfect, your mom's not perfect, your dad's not perfect, and you don't have to be perfect. Mistakes teach us things, so don't be afraid of making mistakes. You know, challenge yourself. So I just want to give him as everything that has helped me, and even things that I am not so sure about, but I know, like you said, like, we all know what it takes to succeed. Like, I know what I need to do to get my body to look in a certain way and to, like, get strong, but that doesn't mean I'll do it, right? So I just want to give him everything that I know will help, and he can figure it out from there. I'm not concerned about, like, the world, because I have no control over what's happening, you know, and we can't look at things from the fear standpoint. Like, and sometimes it's very difficult, but there's always possibility, you know, there's always possibility.
So I saw TikTok videos of, like, young kids, especially young boys, probably around Apollo's age and a little bit younger, playing with, like, kitchen sets for kids. And some parents are, like, upset because it's a young boy playing in the kitchen, pretending to be in the kitchen. And I don't know why it's such an issue now, because from what I remember as a kid, where I would go to school, all the toys were free range, and they was encouraged. What is your take on it as a parent, like, with a young boy, and how society sees men today or males today, and how things...
So for me growing up, like, it was very very linear. Like, this is what girls do, this is what boys do, and this is the kind of toys girls play with, and the kind of... So I was like a menace to society, because all I wanted to do was, like, run around shirtless playing soccer. Like, all my friends were guys. I was like a biggest tomboy, and my mom was like, oh my god, this girl, like, what am I gonna do? And so I always felt, like, constricted. I'm like, dude, I can't help it. I, like, the boy stuff is cool, and, like, we raised these girls to, like, this is what you have to do, you're so pretty. And I was a troublemaker. I was always getting in trouble, you know, and I felt like, fuck, I resent being a girl. Until eventually I was like, fuck you, I'm a girl, and I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want. And so with my son, he's like the opposite. He actually really likes girl, like, he's obsessed with Elsa. He likes, like, My Little Pony. And to me, dude, if you like it, explore, you know. I don't really give a fuck about any of these, what do you call them, like, gender norms or whatever the hell, expectations. Doesn't, and I think, you know, we grew up with more traditional parents, and now people understand that, like, things are more fluid and more complicated than just these binary conceptions, right? But I also think now people are too soft, you know, like, we can't talk about things. I can't question. I can't act, like, everything is like, don't, it's not supposed to be like that. Just allow everything to be so, and I'm like, no, like, if we have to have discourse, right? Like, we have to talk about things. If somebody like, I don't want everybody who agrees and has the same perspective in a circle making decisions. Like, I have a bunch of friends that I don't agree with a lot of what they believe, they don't agree with, but we love each other, and our common ground is, like, this love that we have for each other as people. Like, just because we don't agree, you know, it doesn't mean we can't have a conversation. So, you know, there's a lot of that, I think, from both the grandparent side, like sometimes with Apollo, like he'll want to like paint his nails or whatever, and you can see like that, like, you know, like why is she letting him? And I'm like, sorry, we're in a new age, new world. Get over it. So, and I think a lot of parents are more like that, which is good. I think it's good.
See, it's weird for me because like I'm thinking back to how I was raised and gender norms or whatever have you call them these days because everything is so fluid and changing constantly. So my parents are from Belize, Central America, and from what I remember with my niece especially growing up with my nephew and my nieces and families, kids, there was that sense of like boys are boys, girls are girls. There's a difference when it comes to biology, for example, but it doesn't mean that they can't play with each other. So that when it came to toys and whatnot, I remember that we were all very rugged. And if the girls wanted to stay with the girls and do girly things, that's fine. Like, go ahead, stay in that corner. But if you want to come hang out with us and run around and just be crazy, come ahead. We don't give a shit. Like, I remember when we would spend Christmas into New Year's in Belize, we would go to my dad's town where he was raised. And I remember specifically my parents allowing me to be out in the streets at like 10 at night with firecrackers and the local kids running around just causing trouble and not giving a shit. And my mom was always scared because she thought something was going to happen to me. But, you know, they were raised very rugged. You were raised on the street sort of thing. You had to fend for yourself. You still had a home to go to and a mom and a dad, if that was the case. But you had to learn from childhood experience. So we would just run around, play manhunt with no flashlights, just throw rocks at people that tried to harass us. But there were boys and girls
in
there.
Newark. Yeah. We used to play it's the best, Yeah. But I do feel like we have to do more in educating our young boys, the girls too, right? About like sexual abuse and sexual misconduct and inappropriate, because like where I grew up, we were all immigrant kids. There was a lot expected of us in terms of like responsibilities, right? Like our parents are out working, like you need to wake up, make your breakfast, walk yourself to school. Like I used to, as a 7-year-old, wake up, like my mom would call me, hey, are you up? Get yourself ready. I left your cereal out, walk to school. So I thought I was so much older than I was. And I wanted to like be an adult, like I thought I can handle my shit. And there was a lot of like we were very sexual, like little kids. And thinking back, I'm like, yo, I don't want to expose my child to this, but I rather have these conversations like now, even now, like we have talks. I'm like, look, don't let anybody like touch you in your penis. Don't show it, because, and then you start hanging out with like older kids that are doing other stuff. And then, things happen. And especially for little boys, like a lot of, I had friends that told me that they were like molested when they were younger. And it's something that is, especially for boys, like how can you admit that, and then there's like the whole, okay, now you're gay then, or it's just, we have to, be open and be free, but at the same time, we have to be aware of the ugliness, of the distortions, the perverted kind of shit that can happen.
I guess this is where open and honesty comes in, because I have to put myself in a vulnerable position in order to let people see that what I'm trying to do is obviously genuine and it's not just some type of clout sort of thing. So when it comes to sexual abuse, I was sexually abused as a kid by a family member who was probably a couple of years older than me. And it did skew my view on sexuality, and it did skew my view on sex in general, especially once mom and dad put HBO into my room and really didn't take the time to. By then too, they didn't really have parental controls either, I don't think. So my sex at a young age was exposed to me very rapidly, and it did mess me up throughout the years, especially in my 20s until recently. I had a lot of trust issues with women in general. And yeah, it does question your sexuality. At one point, I'm wondering if I'm gay or not, or if this is just something that was just what happened to me, just really just put my mind in a sense of like, sex is sex, you know? And sex is sex, but there's also
so much to it.
Yeah, there's so much, there is that monogamous connection that you have with somebody that's love, you know, but you know, recently I had to read a book that really changed my life on love and relationships and sex and all of that. But like, yeah, I think too, especially young boys need to be talked to on what it is and, you know, what's right and wrong. But all people will argue perspective. Some people will think that that's a good thing. Like we should allow this to happen. And, you know, I'm reading a book right now, Brave New World. You ever read that book?
Yeah, like when I was in school.
Okay, so do you remember it all?
Kind of. It was like the dystopian society.
There were kids were having orgies with each other, like the young kids around Apollo's age. They encouraged it. Yeah.
Wait, what? I don't remember Brave.
So I have
this this is something that you.
I have it right here.
It wasn't explicit, right?
So in this book, basically, there's a dystopian world where.
Hold on. Pause, because I have to use the bathroom.
Same here. I'm going to pause it. So, Brave New World. Basically, we know it's about a dystopian world. Utopia, dystopia, a little bit of mix. And then there's two worlds. There's the utopian world where everything is good. Life is just perfect. And then there's the other world where they have the savages, where they basically live like, you know, how Native Americans live. So in this dystopian world, you find out that through science and the government, because it's a one world government, they were able to clone humans with one embryo from egg and sperm. So they were basically creating thousands of humans with that one little thing. So then it's like, then they figure out that they could pick these people to have certain jobs. So it's sort of like the idea of communism in China, where you're basically told that this is what you're going to become. You're going to be a doctor. We're going to train you to become a doctor throughout your whole life.
Yeah, I remember that part of it.
Okay, so
get to the children.
So then in the world now, they take something called soma, which is like a drug that's in everything in order to make them feel happy all the time. And then in order for the kids to just be...
Yeah, I remember that too.
To be sort of controlled, they indoctrinate them by having them repeat certain chants, and then they just allow... Because they basically made people sterile. So they just allow people to experiment, and the whole idea is you want to have pleasure 24/7. Enjoy everything in life. Just enjoy life in general. You don't have to worry about work. You don't have to worry about anything. Just keep taking the soma and keep fucking each other, because every person belongs to every person. There's no monogamous relationship anymore. They don't want the mother and father or the family structure anymore. They want you to rely on the government. So they encourage you to just have sex with anybody. So they encourage it at a young age.
You were assigned a parent. You were assigned a home, right?
I believe so. Well, not really. They basically. I don't
remember the whole aspect of the children having sex, but I know that the people were. I don't remember it being the.
So there's a part in the book within the chapters where they basically talk about like the kids are just naked and in the field behind the bushes, boys and girls just doing whatever they want and encouraging it, because they just want them to learn that pleasure is all you need in life, and you don't have to worry about anything else. We'll take care of it. We'll feed you. We'll give you your soma. You'll have your job. Just enjoy. And so they have to get them at a young age to make them don't feel weird about, you know, doing what they're doing. And then there's the one character.
It was a while ago, but I thought that the soma was was desensitizing them.
So what it does is like a drug. It just makes them feel good, and they just get into like a drug state of mind, a hallucinogen mind, where they just feel good about everything. So when there's the part where the couple,
it was like the rain. It was a part of the rain when he wasn't on the drug anymore, and he could like feel rain for the first time. Was that? Forget it.
So yeah,
you tell it.
you don't take the soma, and when you don't take the soma, reality starts hitting you, and you start thinking
you see
that
a shithole you're living in.
Exactly. So then in order for it's the guy and the young girl go to see the savages, and they don't have any soma. So he's trying to encourage her, like, don't you think there's more to life than what we are going through right now? Don't you think there's more we could do? Don't you feel a certain way? Don't you feel like this isn't the life you want to live? Like,
Right.
don't you want to do more? And she's like, no, this is bad talk. You can't be talking about this. It starts repeating these chants that they brainwash them to say that the government is good. It was Ford. They replaced God with Ford, General Ford Motors, the guy who created Ford, the truck. They see him as a god because he revolutionized the production line when it came to creating cars, and that's what they basically created with humans, a production line, just creating humans. So Ford is God to them. So they pray to Ford, and they repeat all these chants, and then they take the soma, which then just drunks them, makes them fucking high, and they just feel happy all the time, and they could just do whatever they want and don't have to worry about anything. Everything is taken care of.
They don't have to question anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I see that be happening more than 1984, but that's what we're getting to. I don't know how we got into. Well, we got into it because of talking to young kids about, as a parent though, do you think the school or the public school system or the local or the government in general should be telling our kids these things, or do you think it's the parent that initially should have control of what their kids learn?
I think it's the parent's choice, right? Not every kid is mature to understand the information that you're giving them, but it starts with conversation. I think too many parents, they're like, I'm not talking to my kid about sex, like, and they vilify sex or being sexual, and it should be, you teach them the mechanism that is sex, and also there's like a spiritual aspect to sex. Absolutely. There's like the mechanism, of course, reproduction, right? But then there's also like the dark manipulation of sex, and you need to teach your kids that. There's like pornography now that's crazy, the porn, right? Super vivid. Like, just imagine like little kids watching that and growing, like, what are they going to expect from sex? What are they going to, right?
I'm an example.
but you're not, though, because the porn that you were watching as a kid is totally different than today's porn. And HD now, like, and it's just, it can be twisted, and these kids are seeing these images. It's just like the violent images that we can also feed children. And it just tells them a story. So if you don't take hold of that narrative and, teach them, and, I'm not going to say don't watch porn, but like, he's way too young for this talk, but, eventually we're going to get there. And it's like, dude, it's your own body. But we've talked about, like, he's a kid with a penis. Like, sometimes things happen. It's like, I'm not going to be like, have conversations with your kids. Teach them to love their body, understand, like, look, certain things you do in private, this is your body. Don't let anybody touch it. If anybody ever touches this spot or this spot, you tell a parent. You don't feel ashamed. You have to start small. And so eventually, when it's like the big conversations, they have a frame of mind. They're not just like, taken out. And it's like a whole thing. Because I'm sure from their perspective too, it's weird having a conversation, with your parent. But
it's interesting. It's great talking to you because you have a son, and so I'm back in the dating world after 2 years. I'm finally putting myself out there to see what life is like, talking to other single people. And I'm on the dating app right now I'm just looking for conversation.
Which one?
Whichever one it is, I'm on, whatever. But the thing is like, So this is another reason why I'm doing this podcast, is to encourage conversation, but adult-like conversation. Like, because I've been questioning, especially been questioning women that I know, friends that are women who are single as well. Like, what is it that men are telling you on these dating apps to make you not want to conversate with men in general? Because I could see there's a bitterness and a resentment because all men are pigs, and so they're telling me what. Like one person yesterday, a friend of mine who I was FaceTiming, she's reading me a conversation that she got from a guy on one of these dating apps, and I'm just looking at
Did
him
he
like,
lead with a dick pic? Because
no.
that's like the general consensus that guys are just like.
So he used some acronym basically saying what he wanted to do to her, and basically was trying to use a sales tactic. And I was like, this guy is definitely in sales, or has been reading these red pill books or watching these videos. Was basically telling her, okay, so when can we pencil in this time for you to hang out? Like, let's come so we can
pencil in some time for my pencil.
Yeah. So the thing is like, so it's from being single for 2 years and finally working on my mental health and trying to make myself a better person while also dealing with whatever past regrets and things I've done horrible to women, because I'm not a saint. And I've done my shitty things, and I can't take back the past. I can only do what I can do now in order to try and make a difference in some way, and kind of not seek forgiveness, but know that I'm at least trying to make myself a better person and doing whatever. So what I'm getting to is I've from finally mentally growing, or trying to mentally grow. I've seen a lot of men my age not mentally like mature. They're not mature mentally. And I could see why, like, society seems to not be moving. It's at a stalemate. You're hearing a lot of people aren't having sex anymore. A lot of people aren't wanting to get married. A lot of people don't want to, if they're buying a home, they're buying it for their dog to have a backyard and not to try and start a family, which is, I get, a lot of people aren't meant for that. And, a lot of people shouldn't be parents, maybe that's something that they're not. But from a man's perspective, what the fuck is going on with men?
Well, like you said from the beginning, right? This kind of like social media, like the way that we communicate has changed. Like, you're not meeting somebody at a bar and like trying to, get to know them and start a conversation, because you'd never talk to somebody at a bar and say, hey, like, when are we going to fuck? I think people in these apps, most of them are there for the sexual experiences of it. I'm not sure anybody's trying to find their soulmate. I guess it depends. Like, I don't know, like eHarmony, or if that's still a thing. And there's certain ones that it's like, oh, people looking for relationships, or like Christian Mingle, or whatever it is. But for the most part, I think people are trying to get laid. This is like the quickest way. We're all into instant gratification. People want to be in a relationship, but they don't understand that like relationships are fucking hard. You have to communicate. Like, it's not just the men, like women are immature too. Like, we can't have certain conversations, and it's become this environment where nobody is authentic anymore. Like, I have conversations with people. Luckily, my friends, I can say I surround myself by people who are okay with having these hard conversations, like honest to God, real. I'm not just saying this because this is what everybody says, but this is really how I feel. This is really where I'm at. This is really what I want. Just honest, sometimes ugly conversations that need to be had. But everybody's so superficial now. We just put a filter on everything, and it's like, okay, great. And if that's what you want, if you're just trying to have like,
I can see how
sex, then I can see why men are doing that. It's like a numbers game. If this girl, this is the worm on my hook. If I catch it, great. I'm sure there's some women out there too. They're like, bro, I'm not trying to have a deep conversation about like how you want to be a family man. I just want the dick,
So I can see how porn really does play a part in affecting both men and women when it comes to looking at another person. I had to really reduce my view on it because I was getting to a point where it's just like my mind was just on sex all the time, and I started just seeing everybody as an object, and it's just like that was just like no, because then I start wondering, well, what's going on with me? It does isolate yourself from being a little more social with women, especially from a male's perspective, because you don't know how to talk to women now because you're just so used to just getting to that instant gratification, like you had mentioned. I think we need to learn how to delay our gratification and realize that you have to earn it, and then you get the job done, and then you could enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Right.
I think video games at after a certain age, I think video games really does have an effect on men or people in general. I think after 25, if you're, and this is just me personally, if you're really into gaming after 25, I think there's some people that could balance it, but there's some people that they take it a little too far, and it stunts their ability to really communicate with some of the opposite sex. I don't think men take rejection very well. I think that needs to be something talked about.
It's a lot of generalizations, though. You know, we can't put
well, everybody's individual. It's different, but from a standpoint of from what I've experienced, especially down here, I noticed that fiction is a very big thing. So something like Harry Potter is big down here. Star Wars is big down here. The idea of escapism is a huge thing when it comes to just trying to get away from from everyday life,
the reality.
Yeah, and I think that really skews any ability to grow. You start losing that sense of communicating with a person.
Why are we so dissatisfied with our, day-to-day existence? Like, what's making life so mundane? Is it because we're constantly being fed these like outrageous lifestyles and like personalities and way of being, and like we feel like this is where we have to belong, and if you're not in that place, then you need to, I don't know, play video games all day? Like, where
it's so many different factors. So like us growing up, I remember growing up in towards the early 2000s, it was a lot of like hearing a lot of teenage girls talking about like like all these teen magazines and all this teen bopper shit, that they need to look a certain way and feel a certain way in order for boys to notice them. There was that superficial sort of lifestyle. Paris Hilton was a big thing when we were growing up.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people were mimicking that. I think media plays a factor. I think food plays a factor. What we consume, we talked about it earlier, what we put into our body really affects how we think and how we feel. These phones and technology, really, we start creating a bubble for what we're interested in and only interested in, and anything outside of that could go fuck off. Then we start losing empathy, and we start losing concern for anything that doesn't concern us. I do get that you need to love yourself first in order to love others. But I don't think people are taking the time to love themselves. And I think that's the problem.
Because it's not a priority here, I feel like we've gotten to a place where we're so comfortable, right? We have like everything. We have everything at the palm of our hands. And we have so much free time, really, right? And we don't know what to do with it. So we just do the easiest thing, which is like social media, or, subscribe to like whatever is cool. And we forget about the things that bring us joy, that like nobody else knows about. But the things that we know, it's sometimes simple things like painting, coloring, just having conversations. I think everything is just too fast,
I've been thinking. I don't know. See, I've been thinking about purpose, right? What our purpose is, from a theological standpoint, for someone who believes in God like ourselves. People will say, well, our purpose in life is to appropriate, have kids, and keeps us the future moving forward, and just make life better for people in the future. Well, that's not the case for a lot of people these days. A lot of people don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm like stuck in between or on the fence of the purpose of life is to continue life and make life better until we really get to wherever we're supposed to go once we leave this earth, if you believe in afterlife or whatever. And then I've also realized that maybe there is no purpose in life, which is a good thing because then we create purpose that's going to benefit us. As long as it's not self-destructive and hurts others, our purpose, what we find our purpose to be, painting, for example, like you had mentioned, finding a hobby, doing volunteer work, doing something that's going to better ourselves. We find that purpose. And then from there, we just end up finding what our happiness is. But I don't know.
That's kind of how I see it. I feel like, going back to, I believe there is this creator, this source we all come from. And, we are a reflection of that. And so our purpose is to create, whether it's procreation or a thought, an idea, a joke, like all of these are little creations that we're doing, that we're participating in, building something with our hands, building a relationship. That's, to me, what, and that can change from day to day. Like, you don't have to be, like, we're constantly moving. We're moving right now, standing still, So I don't know. Sometimes when you can see like the macro and the micro, it makes you feel like you're okay. I can just be happy with like the process of being a human and figuring it out and like trying to be a creator. I'm trying to express whatever it is that I'm feeling, love, anger, all these different things. I think it doesn't have to be this, my purpose is to whatever, save lives or be a doctor. Or, maybe it's my purpose right now is to be a friend, or my purpose was to, walk down the street and feel the sun on my skin. Like, it gets complicated because we're so stuck again on these ideas of like what we're supposed to be doing, and that shit how can we find out? How do we know? Like, when will we know? So it's hard.
I like what you said though about the idea of creating. It doesn't have to be procreation. It could be anything, an idea, a thought, painting, whatnot. I think the whole answer is we're never gonna know what the true purpose is until wherever we go, if we go anywhere after we die. I don't know. I think a lot of people like to say there's a class warfare right now when it comes to the economy and the people and whatever resentments. I honestly think it's a spiritual warfare. I think a lot of people are spiritually lost, and I think I don't think people want to take the time to really think about. They want to know why these things happen. I don't think they want to take the time out to understand how it happens, what happens, and what could come out of it. I think a lot of people are so used to just failure and seeing the darkness in the world that they just become numb to it. There's a lot of nihilistic thoughts these days. I have a lot of people, friends I know, are very like, whatever. I'm just going to enjoy life. And I guess that's kind of okay. Enjoy life and just let things be. But I think if you ignore certain things and just allow it to happen and don't really do something about it, it's going to be detrimental. And that could be a personal thing. Like right now, I have dishes in my sink that I haven't touched for a couple days. If I don't fucking do something about it,
It piles on. And that's just like the problems in our life, What can you do, bruh? You gotta, like, it's decisions. It all goes back to like you making decisions and being aware of the consequence of your decision, whether it be good consequences or bad consequences. Like, you're gonna act and things will happen accordingly. So I think it's just sometimes the conversation, it just gets too complicated. I can imagine for people that are struggling with, you know, multiple aspects of their life, right? They want the relationship, they want the career, they want the body, they want all these different things. So they're like, I'm failing. Like whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing, like it's a total shit show. If we can just reduce that to like little feelings of accomplishments, you know, every day, and take out the whole, you know, I gotta act, I gotta do, I gotta move, I gotta just do the dishes. You have the dishes, just go wash those dishes, man. Sometimes I feel like that too, and everything starts piling up, and I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck, you know? And then it just takes like accomplishing a little goal, just a little. It's just for me. Like, I know I did the bed, I made the bed, you know, like it's a little tiny step.
So how relationship wise, how, because you and Brandon been together for how long now? Since
like, I think early 2014.
How, especially now with the way things are going and pandemic and being, some people are stuck with each other inside of an apartment or a house. Like how has it been relationship wise? Has it been challenging? Does it get better? Does it get harder?
Oh, I mean, we go through our ups and downs, right? Like it's not just like, okay, now it gets better and it's just all up there from the pandemic though. I have to say, I know that it's maybe insensitive. There's a lot of like suffering and a lot of death, and but in a way it really brought us closer together, you know, being closer to my family, being closer to Brandon. Like this was the first time we really were home, like quarantined, seeing each other every day, because he's always worked so much, you know. And you know, I think we got stronger because of it, for sure. But it takes hard work. Like I know I'm fucking annoying, you know, so I'm a lot to deal with. And you know, we're very different. He's kind of reserved and I'm more like out there. But you know, he's taught me a lot, and we're growing together. So that's what's important to me. You know, in any relationship, things are not always going to be like, oh my God, we're head over heels. It's been all these years and we're like obsessed with each other still. But you know, some days we are, some days I'm like, get the fuck away from me. You know, but we're strong. So as long as we like, look what we made, you know? Like, how can we not? Right?
Handsome little guy. He's very handsome. My goodness.
He's saying you're handsome.
Does he speak Portuguese?
Do you speak Portuguese? Okay.
So what do you, all right, so I guess everything we got covered. I just
we talked about so much shit.
What kind of advice do you have to moms or to anybody in general, being, because you have, so too, the reason why I had reached out is because the years we haven't talked, we were still able to connect through social media and follow each other. And
after all those years, that was the first Instagram I made.
So like you've always had this personality of like happy-go-lucky. I don't think I've ever seen you angry. I don't think I've ever seen you sad, which I don't think I ever want to, because I like the happy Anna that I've always experienced. And so like what advice do you have, especially for moms, being that, you know, you are a mom, and just, I guess, women or people in general, what advice do you have from your own experience and perspective when it comes to just life in general? Anything you want to tell anybody that will possibly watch this and listen to your story or listen to?
Yeah, of course. Well, I do generally have a sunny disposition. I like to feel happy, but I also, you know, I'm a Pisces, I'm emotional. So I definitely have moments where I feel angry, you know, especially I turn more towards anger than sadness because I still have like I can't be sad, I can't be emotional. But, Apollo's changed that for me. So now I'm just like a big crying mess all the time. But, I do get angry. I do get frustrated at myself. I do have like body dysmorphia sometimes. It's all these things that women are always told, like how we have to act, how you have to behave. Especially for mothers, like the kind of parenting that you should have. Everybody's always going to give you their input. And so you have to kind of take in the good, and everything else is like, it's bullshit, right? Act from love and act according to your belief. Because if you're always doing what other people, tell you have to do, I think it's just a recipe for disaster. Especially when it comes to like parenting a child. Like nobody knows your kid better than you. So, like there's a lot of pressures, I think, from like parents and grandparents and all these people. They want to tell you, and don't be afraid too to ask for help. That's been something like for me was hard too. To say like, yo, this is like, I'm struggling here. Like I need help. Just need some time for myself, or I need this. It's perfectly fine for you to not do anything for anybody and just have like 3 hours for yourself and not have to explain it to anybody. I think that would be my only thing. It's like, everybody's doing the best that they can. Don't expect so much from yourself. Don't expect so much from your kid. Just try your best. Just try your best. And on those hard days, find the little things that you can do to give you momentum and push you forward.
We have the same mindset. That's very Bruce Lee mindset, because it's where I've got gained a lot of my realization of life. Is he likes to say, don't take anything as dogma. Don't hold on to anything. Take what works for you throughout the rest, but always keep learning so something new could come along that could change your perspective. So be adaptable to that. And I have the same attitude of just like dropping expectations, not having any expectations, because things are always not going to go out the way you're like, I think that's a problem too. Expectations. And when it doesn't go our way, we're quick to just either let go, give up, and be angry altogether and hold those resentments versus, well, what can I do again now? That's why I've been saying it's not failure if you learn a lesson from it. It's failure if you keep continuing to do it and it keeps fucking you up.
And there's science to that too, with like brain chemistry, these expectations that you have. And then when, that hit of dopamine that you get because the expectation, it wasn't what you expected and everything you built it to be. And then you feel actually like this withdrawal of dopamine because, it wasn't what I expected. So I think
it goes fake scenarios.
It goes both ways. Like we can't expect the worst and we cannot expect the bad. It's so hard to like say, just experience it. But I can seriously say the more you do it, the better you get at it. Yeah, the better you get at it. I don't know. I'm just curious. So I like to put myself in places where I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't like to watch things over this. Like, I don't like to watch the same movies. I don't like to go to the same places. I'm always trying to do different things because I like feeling things that are like novel. Like, I love novelty. I think there's a bad side to that too, but yeah, just try to forget who you are, forget what you're supposed to do, forget what something is supposed to give you, and just experience it. Being present in your body and your thoughts, like
we have the same mindset. We definitely have the same mindset. I'm definitely the same way. No past, no future, only the present. What you do now is going to pave a way for your future, but you have to know that there's going to be bumps in the road. But what you do is going to leave a past, I guess you call it a legacy of who you are as a person. And my whole thing is, as long as it's not self-destructive and as long as it's not hurting others, leave a legacy that's going to be because you're gonna obviously your people are gonna forget who you are, but if you do something that's impactful, you know, you're gonna be talked about in the sense of like you did something that possibly brought change into the world. Of examples, Martin Luther King, you know, as the main example.
That's like whew, right there on the spectrum.
But that was an idea that some small idea that slowly rippled apart. So he had to start somewhere, and he started somewhere, and it just became, you know, word of mouth sort of thing. But we want instant gratification, so we want it now instead of just. And also,
nobody thinks about the sacrifice that takes. You know, they're just like, wow, the man became like, you know, the face for civil change and kind of like a reincarnate Jesus, you know, but nobody thinks about all the I mean, he gave his life, you know,
But all life is about sacrifice. For you, it's in your relationship, you're sacrificing yourself in order to be a good mother, a good wife. I'm sure your husband is the same way. He has to sacrifice a bit of himself, take away some selfishness, be a good husband, be a good father. And then you two come together to become good parents. That takes a lot of sacrifice, because I'm sure there's days where you're just like, I just want the kid to run around and just enjoy watching Dr. Oz for a couple hours and just let it be. But, you know, you got to sacrifice in order to make sure that kid doesn't bang his head against the wall, you know, hurt himself, for example. But Anna, I do appreciate talking to you. This has been more than I had expected. I had to let go of my expectations. But I thank you so much, and I wish you well on whatever journey you're on. And we're definitely going to keep in touch. And if I need a PR person, because I've done some stuff in the past, and that is sure going to probably pop up.
All right, I'll hook you up with branding, strategic planning. All right, we'll gauge your audience. We'll do the whole spiel. All right.
Sounds good. But you have it so. Yeah,
I love you. I've always loved you. I'm happy to see you kind of, you know, be kind and try to be a positive change. And I'm proud of you. So I'm here for another interview. Just shoot the shit, whatever it is.
And I'm thankful for you. Growth. You've always brought me inspiration to be like, anytime I try and think of like, if I feel shitty or whatever, I think of people in my past that have impacted me in some way. And I'll think of Anna, because out of all the people that I've worked with at that job that we had, you were one of the few. You, Lawrence, and I think only you two were really the ones that really like sat and I could have conversations that wasn't just about work or just about sales. We could have conversations about just life in general.
Yeah.
And that's always what attracted me to want to like connect with you again. It's just like, fuck, I just miss having someone to talk to. So you've always been an inspiration to me when it comes to just keep moving forward and being positive and just deal with the bullshit and just deal with the smile, you know?
Aw. Well, I'm always here for conversations, bruh. Always.
All right, so now get your ass to being a mom.
I will. I'm actually hungry, okay?
All right, you go enjoy. All right, have a good night.
All right, bruh.
All right, take care. Peace.